Hi, good morning. Our team is made of Alejandro de la Garza, Stephanie Alonso, Julio Lara, Luis Rios, Fernando Rodriguez, and their servant Yesenia Guerra. Today we will present the topic electrophoretic deposition and its relationship with chemical engineering. Electrophoretic deposition. It is a two-stage process. First, an electrical field applied between two electrodes that moves the suspended particles in a stable suspension towards the positively charged electrode, electrophoresis. In a second step, the particles accumulate on the working electrode forming a dense homogeneous layer, deposition. Uses. In the industry, this technique was used for the manufacture of articles, ceramics, and coating technologies. However, new areas of application are found in the manufacture of compounds and materials with nanostructures, structures, nanocrystalline, multilayers, composite, laminates, among others. It is also considered as an important tool in the areas of nanotechnology, in the biomolecular manipulation of natural polymers, proteins, bacteria, and cells.
Once mentioned this information, let's talk about the graphene. The graphene is one of the allotropic forms of carbon, as are the graphite and diamond. It is elastic and flexible, and is endowed with great thermal and electrical conductivity, which allows it to dissipate heat and withstand strong electrical currents without heating up. And then, one of the common uses of the graphene are in generate electricity, the development of ultra-fast wireless communication networks, batteries that never run out, and medical applications. Now that we talk about the graphene, let's talk about the graphene oxide. The graphene oxide is an oxidized form of graphene, synthesized through the oxidation and exfoliation of graphite. The graphene oxide shares the same structure as graphene, but includes interspersed oxygen-containing functional groups. Then, the uses for the graphene oxide are for supercapacitors, very resistant paper, DNA research, and water purification.
Benefit of this process. The process is useful for applying materials to an electrically conductive surface. The materials that are deposited are the main determining factor in the actual processing conditions in the equipment that can be used. There are two main categories of electrophoretic deposition chemistries, anodic and cathodic. With respect to the anodic process, the main advantages that are normally tools for this process are lower cost compared to the cathodic process, fewer problems with innovation of curing of subsequent substrates, less sensitivity to variation in the quality of the substrate. Certain metals such as zinc can be weakened from the hydrogen gas that is given off as the cathode. The anodic process avoids this effect as oxygen is generated as the cathode. The substrate isn't subject to jelly alkaline conditions which can dissolve phosphate and other conversion currents.
Another advantages of the process is that the pulling power can be designed in the process and in the product. The oxidation only occurs at the anode, and some of the higher levels of corrosion protection are possible. The process is performed at different voltages. The electric current should decrease as the deposition progresses. This process is really interesting because the higher levels of corrosion are really protected. It protects all the corrosion. In the experimental part, the EPO was carried out at the anode using indium tin oxide and using steel sheets as working electrodes.
The increasing current in the 10-volt graph is associated with the roughness of the deposit. At this voltage, the current of the electrophoretic deposition is unstable. In the graph, you can see an increase from the beginning to 100 seconds, staying constant until 400. After that, the electric current is less. As shown In the image, the high voltage deposition have hollow structure. This is due to the evolution of the gas bubbles underneath the depository graphene oxide flakes and local swelling of the deposit. This process is performed at a thermal treatment of 250 Celsius. The information mentioned shows that at higher voltage there is an instability at the desired quality is not obtained since the result has gaps in the structure while at lower voltage you have a more controlled process. If we in our daily life will use a process like this with a high voltage, there will be a series of corrosion problems more than anything on the part of materials used since beginning an electrochemical reaction. It tends to be one of the oxidation reduction. In case the voltage is higher, there will be those raw gaps that will make it difficult for us to carry out a correct analysis.
In the lower voltage depositions were tested, the author of this article mentions this. A adhesive tape peel test was unable to fully detach any of the samples deposited. This for us means that using the lower voltage implies better process quality as it is not affected by water hydrolysis. This shows us that making the process of electrophoretic deposition of the graphene using indium tin oxide is more efficient when performed with small voltage to be able to have a more controlled process. With all this, we can conclude that the electrophoretic deposition process is an important process and serves as a ceramics and metallurgical industry. Graphene is a widely used material for this process, and we learned what are the conditions under which the process is best carried out.